Hi everyone, welcome back to English Lab. I'm Leo, your host. Today we're exploring something deeply personal, identity. Who are you, really? And I don't mean your name or your job. I mean the deeper question. Who do you think you are? And more importantly, who do you want to become? Identity is fascinating because it's not fixed. It changes. It's influenced by culture, family, experiences, the stories we tell ourselves. But here's the thing. You have more power to shape your identity than you probably realize. To dive into this with me, I have Anastasiia. And today, I'm going to be sharing more of my own journey with identity, because this is something I've thought deeply about. How my sense of self has evolved, what's shifted, and what I've realized about authenticity and living as my true self. This is the third episode of our B2 podcast series. We're getting into some profound territory here, so really listen and reflect on how these ideas relate to your own life. And remember, there's a free study guide PDF in the description with vocabulary, phrases, reflection questions, and writing prompts about identity and authenticity. Let's go!
Leo, let me start with something direct. When someone asks you, "Who are you?" what do you say?
I usually start with the surface level stuff. My name, where I'm from, what I do for work. But honestly, that's barely scratching the surface. That's like describing a person by their outfit. It tells you almost nothing about who they actually are.
So what's below the surface?
Below the surface is the real person. Your values, your fears, your dreams, the experiences that shaped you, your relationships and how you show up in them, your sense of humor, your contradictions, your growth areas, the person you're becoming versus the person you were.
That's quite different from what you'd put on a CV.
Completely different. A CV is a performance. It's the version of you that you want employers to see. But your real identity? That's more complicated and more interesting. I'm someone who values growth and learning. I'm someone who's struggled with perfectionism. I'm someone who can be introverted in big groups but very expressive one-on-one. I'm someone who's changed a lot in the past 10 years.
You mentioned change. How has your identity shifted over 10 years?
Dramatically. 10 years ago, I was much more focused on external validation. I cared more about what people thought. I had this idea of who I should be, more confident, more outgoing, more successful, and I was constantly trying to fit that mold.
What changed that?
Failure, honestly. And also therapy and reflection. I realized that I was exhausting myself trying to be someone I wasn't. And the person I was trying to be wasn't even making me happy.
So you started being more authentic?
Slowly, yes. It wasn't a sudden switch. It was gradual. I started noticing when I was performing versus when I was being genuine. And I realized I could choose. I could choose to be quiet when I felt quiet instead of forcing myself to be the life of the party. I could choose work that aligned with my values instead of just chasing money.
Do you think that's harder for some people than others?
Absolutely. Some people grew up with families that encouraged authenticity. Other people grew up in environments where they had to constantly adapt to survive or be accepted. Those people often have a harder time recognizing who they actually are beneath all the adaptations.
And how do they start that process?
By getting curious about themselves. By asking, what do I actually like versus what do I think I'm supposed to like? What do I want versus what do I think I should want? Those questions are harder than they sound because the shoulds are so loud.
The shoulds?
The voices telling you how you should be. Your parents' expectations, your culture's values, society's definitions of success, gender roles, all of that. These are powerful forces. And they're not inherently bad. They provide structure and guidance. But sometimes they override who you actually are.
Can you give me an example?
Sure. I know people who pursued careers because it was expected. Doctor, lawyer, accountant. And they were miserable. They were successful by society's definition, but internally empty. Once they gave themselves permission to pursue what actually interested them, everything changed.
So, identity is also about permission.
Yes, it's about giving yourself permission to be who you are, not who you're supposed to be. And that's surprisingly radical, because society is not structured to support people in that.
How do you continue developing your identity as you get older?
By staying reflective, by noticing when you're growing and when you're stagnating, by being willing to change your mind about who you are. Identity is not supposed to be fixed forever. The person I am at 30 is not who I'll be at 40.
So it's a process.
It's a lifetime process. You're constantly integrating new experiences, learning new things about yourself, evolving. The goal isn't to figure out who you are once and for all. The goal is to stay curious about who you're becoming. Let's pause here. We're talking about something that affects every single person listening. The question of identity, authenticity, and how to live as your true self in a world that constantly tells you who you should be. If you want to go deeper into this and explore your own identity, there's a free study guide PDF in the description. This guide includes B2 level vocabulary about identity, authenticity, values, and personal growth. It also has reflection questions that will help you examine your own sense of self, writing prompts about your identity journey, and discussion questions to explore with friends or family. Download it now and really engage with these questions. This isn't just language practice. This is self-discovery work that happens to be in English. Subscribe to English Lab for more conversations that matter, that challenge you intellectually and help you understand yourself better. Now, let's continue with Anastasiia and explore more about how identity shows up in different contexts, what it means to be authentic, and how to align your life with your true self.
I want to ask about something that many people experience. Do you feel like different versions of yourself in different contexts?
All the time. I'm different with my family than I am with close friends. I'm different at work than I am at home. I adapt to the context because the context shapes what's appropriate and what's not.
Is that authentic or is that fake?
Good question. I don't think it's fake, but it can be. There's a difference between adapting and performing. Adapting is healthy. You modify your tone for an interview versus a party. That's normal. But performing is when you're hiding who you are because you think it's not acceptable.
How do you know the difference?
It comes down to energy. When I'm adapting appropriately, it doesn't drain me. I feel like I'm being myself, just in a different tone. But when I'm performing, when I'm pretending to be someone I'm not, it's exhausting. It's energy draining.
So your body tells you?
Exactly. Pay attention to how you feel. If you're constantly tired after being around certain people or in certain environments, that's a sign you're performing. If you feel energized, that's a sign you're being yourself.
What about people who say they don't really know who they are?
That's actually really common, especially for young people or people who've spent a long time adapting to others' expectations. And the way to discover yourself is through experimentation. Try new things. Notice what interests you, what excites you, what feels right.
How does identity connect with values?
Identity and values are intertwined. Your values are what you actually care about, what you think is important, and your identity is shaped by how you live out those values. If you value authenticity but you're constantly performing, your identity and your values are misaligned.
So alignment is key.
Totally. When your identity and your values are aligned, you feel at peace. When they're misaligned, you feel internal conflict. That conflict is actually useful information. It's telling you, something here needs to change.
Can you talk about how past experiences shape identity?
Absolutely. Who you are is partly shaped by what you've been through. Trauma shapes identity. Success shapes identity. Relationships shape identity. Every significant experience gets integrated into your sense of self.
And if someone has experienced trauma,
that's where therapy and reflection become important. Trauma can create an identity that's protective but limiting. Like, I'm not worthy of love, or I can't trust people. Those beliefs get baked into identity, And while they might have been protective at some point, they often need to be questioned and rewritten.
Rewritten?
Yes, you can't erase your past, but you can reinterpret it. You can look at a traumatic experience and ask, what did I learn about myself from this? And is that true? Or is that just one story I could tell?
So, identity is also narrative.
It absolutely is. Identity is the story you tell yourself about who you are. And here's the thing, you can change the story. You can say, I used to think I was broken, but now I see that I'm resilient. That shift in narrative changes your identity.
For someone listening who feels disconnected from their authentic self, what would you suggest?
Start by noticing. Notice when you feel like yourself and when you don't. Notice what environments bring you to life and which ones drain you. Notice what activities feel meaningful versus obligatory. That awareness is the first step.
And then?
Then make small changes. Spend less time in the environments that drain you, more time in ones that bring you to life. Say no to obligations that don't align with your values. Say yes to things that interest you, even if they're scary.
And that builds a more authentic identity.
It does. Authenticity is not something you discover once. It's something you build through small choices day by day. Every time you choose authenticity over comfort, you're reinforcing that as part of your identity.
That's actually inspiring.
It should be, because it means you have more power than you think. You're not stuck with the identity you have. You can grow, change, and evolve. You can become the person you want to be. And that's the end of our third B2 podcast episode. We talked about identity, what it is, how it's shaped, how it changes, and crucially, how you have power to shape your own identity. Identity is not something that happens to you. It's something you create through your choices, your values, your actions, and the stories you tell yourself about who you are. Here's what I want you to take away. You are not your job title. You are not your past mistakes. You are not what other people think of you. You are the person you're becoming through your choices and your commitment to growth. And that person can be whoever you decide to be. If you want to explore your own identity more deeply, there's a free study guide PDF in the description. Download it and work through the reflection questions. These questions aren't just for English practice, they're for understanding yourself better. The guide includes vocabulary like authenticity, alignment, resilience, and values. It has comprehension questions, reflection exercises, and writing prompts that will help you examine your own identity and values. Subscribe to English Lab. Give this video a thumbs up and comment below. Who are you? Not your job title or your status. Who are you really? Or, tell us about a time when you realized you were living inauthentically and decided to change. We'd love to hear your stories. Share this podcast with someone who's struggling with who they are, or someone who's on a journey of self-discovery. Thanks for joining us. Next week, we're talking about the power of storytelling, how the stories we tell ourselves and share with others shape our lives and connect us. Take care, and I'll see you in the next English Lab podcast.